It's time to hit the snowy trails.
Candlelit Trail, you can't get any more romantic.
Today, historic state park trails light up after dark. We ride along with Grand Rapids' most nostalgic winter trail riders and wade in cold winter water, all in honor of the art of fly rods.
Minnesota Bound. Brought to you by Minnesota's select GMC dealers.
Hi everybody, Bill and I welcome you to the show. Today we are hitting the trail.
Yeah, we sure are. Up first, we're headed to Mille Lacs-Cathio State Park, where the snowshoeing and skiing trails get just a ton of use.
But here's the thing, a group of volunteers figured out how to keep the trails alive well after dark.
Snow and wind wrap the woods in an eternal blanket of cold, quiet romance. The nature of lonely winter trails widely forgotten. Until now.
Pretty sure we make a loop.
Right there. I always get excited for this. This is one of my favorite days of the year at the park. You know, this is kind of our winter party.
A party put on by Devin Nelson and his college buddies.
We are the Central Lakes College Natural Resources Club, and we have been the main sponsors of this event.
See, every winter, students show up at Mille Lacs-Cathio State Park.
A lot of fun. Just wish we had more snow.
They blaze a trail in hopes that others might see the light.
Oh no, a lot more than that.
Okay, lights.
Yeah, hundreds.
Who knows? I don't want to count. I don't want to count.
2.5 miles of historic trails winding through Cathio.
Trail here, this is Pataga Point Trail. It's like a landmark for the Metawakan and Ojibwe and Dakota tribes. Yeah, it's kind of neat.
We've all put up with winter here for a couple of months, and we're gonna put out some candles, but we're gonna have a bonfire. It's gonna be great. Oh. A unique experience to celebrate just being outside and using the trails here in the park.
We are ready to go.
I think some of it's the mystery. You don't know what's out there. You know, when you're following a candlelit trail, there's just few peacefuler things. There's just something wild about that.
It's so peaceful and quiet, serene.
Perfect. You know, candlelit trail, you can't get any more romantic than that.
Ah yes, what you'd expect from newlyweds.
It's very nice.
Who needs s'mores, right?
Yeah, I love it. The walk was wonderful. I loved the candles and the opportunity to cross-country ski. It's nice to get out and away from the city and enjoy the beauty.
Cathio's cold candlelit trails. The perfect place to get lost. Coming up next, we hop on snowmobiles to try and keep up with Minnesota's most dedicated riders.
Minnesota Bound is brought to you by Minnesota's select GMC dealers. Star Bank. Rapala Ice Force. And by Splash.
Snowmobilers cannot wait until the snow flies. They love conditions like this. So does Ron Scher, because he gets to cover stories like the one up in Grand Rapids, where the Snowmobile Club turns riding into a full-blown lifestyle.
It should be of no surprise. The modern snowmobile was invented more than a half-century ago, right here in Minnesota land. On any given snowy day this winter, more than 250,000 registered snowmobiles will have more than 22,000 miles of groomed trails to roam. All of which means the joy of snowmobiling shows no signs of melting, especially here in Grand Rapids.
Nice vehicle.
Thank you. 1972 Polaris SS Charger.
On this day, folks have gathered to celebrate the Jacobson Classic, a ride featuring vintage snow sleds and a rider's love affair.
Oh, it's just fun of doing it. You know, something vintage that's, you know, older and you don't see these things anymore. Just a great time.
Well, the Jacobson Classic goes back to 1985. A bunch of guys got together and they didn't have much money, so they got together with a bunch of old sleds, thinking that that was the way to go, not knowing that someday they'd be collector's items. So they started making a run from Jacobson to Swan River, just something to do in the middle of the winter. And it kind of grew out of that, and I believe it's probably one of the longest classic runs in existence in Minnesota. It's our 29th year now, and it's just a chance for everybody to get together and have a good time and see people you haven't saw for a year. I'm riding a 1973 Raider with a 399 CCW engine in there, and my brother is also riding a Raider, and so we're termed this year, we call ourselves Raiders of the Lost Ark.
When you come out on the Classic, you're going to see a lot of different sleds, anything from really nicely restored ones to some really custom built, and we're sort of geared towards the custom built ones. That's what our thing was for many, many years. The way I describe it is it's sort of like a carnival on wheels. You got to be here to see it. You know, you don't have to have a whole lot of money tied up into these old sleds. You know, sometimes you can pick them up for 25 bucks, and with a little bit of duct tape and elbow grease, you can get them running.
This is a 1978 Skidoo 6500 Blizzard. Put in a whole new exhaust system and converted it all to make it work. Year to year and a half on my spare time. It's kind of a hobby.
It's a 1967 Johnson ski horse, and then we've got a 68 Cutter. Cutter is just any kind of pull behind sleigh. I guess back in the day, on the brochures used to pull the kids and stuff behind, and today I'm pulling my girlfriend. I guess people used them back in the day for anything, ice fishing or to pull the kids with. Too bad you don't see them used too much nowadays.
It's actually kind of fun. I ride the whole way.
I have a 1963 Skidoo, one of the first early models they came out with. My dad bought it brand new. I still have the book at home that came with it. Been running out here a few times on the ride and trying to keep it running.
Did you say keep them running?
And of course we have what we call the go juice, because a lot of times they don't always start the best.
The old sleds, you know, you can't find them, they can't make them anymore, and this is the whole idea of just trying to stay young with the machines.
This get-together for oldies but goodies also is a fundraiser for the Jacobson Fire Department, as well as the town's parks program.
We got a really good relationship with most of the stores around here. They donate a ton of prizes. We have hoodies, we sell buttons. All of raffle tickets and the buttons that we sell goes right directly back into the park department. It shows you how much a small community can be supported in its own self and how much people actually really do care.
And love the old sled.
Take a ride on a vintage one. You don't go very fast, but you never see a vintage snowmobile rider without a smile.
Straight ahead, long hours as trail groomers shape some of Minnesota's very best snowmobile destinations.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Maple Grove Lock and Safe, your premier Liberty Safe dealer.
Up next, Minnesota's drift skippers hit the trail to keep them in tip-top shape, even if that means working around the clock. My dad tagged along for the ride.
Snowmobiling isn't rocket science, you know. Here in Grand Rapids, you can walk out the hotel door, saddle up a sled, and hit the trail.
The trails right in Grand Rapids connect everywhere. You can drive from the cities and drive into Grand Rapids. You can drive down from Roseau, which we've done. And they're all connected. You can go east, west, north, or south from Grand Rapids.
Trails maintained by a local snowmobile club.
We're in the maintenance portion of the Drift Skipper Clubhouse. This is where we perform all our maintenance checks on the equipment that we use to groom the trails. The Drift Skippers groom 73 miles of trail in and around Grand Rapids and south to Hill City, 73 miles of some of the finest trails in the state of Minnesota. When we're in the heart of the snowmobile season, we groom 7 days a week, sometimes 24 hours a day, to ensure a nice ride for the people who use our trails. I've always had a passion for snowmobiling. It's a great civic organization too, but what it brings to the area and to the community in the way of recreation opportunities and economic growth for the area.
Judy Lundquist has a different reason for being a drift skipper.
Well, that's an interesting story. I had cancer, and part of being a cancer person, as you're going back and forth to treatments, you go, oh, what haven't I done yet? My middle son came home and he says, I've got a new snowmobile, Mom, take it for a ride. And I said, okay, I haven't done that yet. And I loved it, absolutely loved snowmobiling. Before you knew it, I was a club member.
The Drift Skippers were formed in 1969. I've been a member since 1985. We're going to ride out to our west shelter this morning. We have a shelter located in the center of the western part of our trails. One of the traditions of our shelters is that the first person there on most weeknights or certainly on the weekends starts the fire. And it's kind of like our eternal flame, that the next person that arrives at the shelter will be there and enjoy a warm fire on their arrival. It's a great feeling to come around the corner on a cold winter night and have a three-sided shelter and a fire already lit and going. This was built in 2003 by club volunteers, and it's a great gathering place like you see behind us today. There's generally a lot of laughter around the campfire when you're out here.
As we were saying, trails don't just happen by magic. Lots of work to keep a trail to make the winter magic.
It is indescribable. You're relaxing and you're outside in the winter, and if you're not outside in the winter, you're in trouble.
Let her go, Andy.
Coming up next, a Minnesota-bound classic all about the craft of rod building.
Minnesota Bound is brought to you by Connecticut, Mountain Dew, Minnesota Rebound, and by Totem Resorts, the premier destination for world-class fishing.
Today's Minnesota Bound Classic takes us to a winter trout stream.
Yeah, where a retired deputy fire chief finds his passion come to life in the form of fly rods.
One of the things I like to do when I get on the creek is to put my rod together right there on the spot rather than do it at the truck. It's almost like a little ceremony for me. I like to start out slow and just see what's going on.
On a crystal clear morning, Dave Norling fishes in a bit of a haze. He just can't help himself.
There are nights when I can't sleep. If I'm going fishing in the morning, there's times I can't sleep. It's just one of the greatest things I do.
Dave will be first to tell you he's a bit sentimental when he wades.
One of my routines is I say, where would you rather be? Just take a look at this. Where would you rather be?
Dave's answer? Nowhere. After all, fishing's in his blood.
The name Norling, If you were from Söderhamn, Sweden, and you were in Norling, that would mean that you were a fisherman.
Dave fishes as a means to an end which begins in his backyard.
Let her rip. There's no arguing about the beauty of bamboo. They make beautiful rods. Good job.
Dave builds his tools of the fishing trade. It's a hobby in the purest sense.
So far, so good. Let her go, Andy. I built my first rod in 1946 when I was in 10th grade in high school from a kit from Herders. It was a glass bait casting rod. And I just, I continued to do it, and I've never lost my love for it.
Now retired from a life of firefighting, Dave spends his days in the shop. Grandson Andy helps him build bamboo rods.
It's just really, really neat to be able to pass that on.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
These rough split strips now are going to have to be planed down to 60-degree equilateral triangles.
Now, Dave uses only hand tools. It's his sort of unwritten rule of rod making.
I don't say it's better or don't say it's worse. I just like to work with the hand tools.
6 equal pieces of bamboo add up to 1 rod.
We just kind of lay them all out on tape, and then they just kind of roll up and fit together. Now it'll be glued.
Curious as the craft itself, some of Dave's homemade tools.
This is a little Rube Goldberg oven that I use to heat and temper bamboo. It's fired by a heat gun, and I monitor it in 3 places with candy thermometers.
And the fine finish on those rods? Well, he's got that worked out too.
There's a tube that goes down into the floor 5 feet, and it's full of varnish.
An old grandfather clock motor runs the whole gizmo.
It'll withdraw that rod at about 2 inches a minute.
Now, just as exacting, Dave's specs for each rod. Get this, often 40 to 45 hours into a rod, Dave will see something he just doesn't quite like. So the rod, well, it goes away.
I don't know how many I've thrown away because there are rods that won't leave the shop.
A real shock, considering the quality of Dave's work.
This is the Dave Norling bamboo rod.
Dave donates a couple rods a year to Trout Unlimited. If the looks are any indication, Dave's rods certainly steal the show.
This cane rod by Dave Norling is the reason I come back to Trout Unlimited Banquet every year. It is beautiful. It's a work of art.
But Dave doesn't quite see his work that way. To him, it's all just a hobby.
I love my shop, I love working with the tools, and I love the rods.
And no doubt, he loves that tug each time his bamboo rod works.
He's got a little body to him.
A fishing pole, a simple means to an end.
Isn't he nice? Thank you, Mr. Fish. Thank you.
And for that, Dave is ever grateful.
I think that the country has a soul, and that this allows me to be part of it.
You know, Dave's rods, even now, are highly coveted by anglers all over the Midwest.
So cool. Hey, drop us a note and let us know how we're doing.
You can find us on Facebook or at minnesotabound.com. We'll see you back here next week.
In the meantime, introduce a kid to the great outdoors.
All right.
Transportation provided by Premier Transportation. Call 1-800-899-7433. To get more Minnesota Bound, including full episodes, go to mnbound.com. And to follow our latest adventures, like us on Facebook.